for approval of the agenda and the minutes. So please review both.
Okay.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the agenda and the minutes.
I move that the submitted agenda and minutes be approved as submitted.
Second.
Okay, it's been approved and properly second. All in favor, I know you by saying aye.
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 Opposed, abstentions, it carries. We'll move on to public comment. Any public comments?
Mommy needs her iPad. And Connie, you need to be quiet while I'm on this meeting. Stop yelling out.
I see Lily's here as well. Hi, Lily. Happy New Year. I don't see
Happy
any.
New Year.
I don't see any public comments, so we're going to move right on to the law enforcement. We'll start with the county sheriff. See anybody here from the sheriff department? Okay, we'll move to Richmond PD.
Good everyone, again, Lieutenant Tracy Mullenburn returning back to the Central District. Lieutenant Smith was the district commander last year, so I'm familiar with the area and some of the issues that have been going on. So I got a transition from Lieutenant Smith. It's good to be back. And as you know, we had a new shift change starting January 3rd. So we do still have a lot of the same officers in the Beat 5 area, North Richmond area. And some are new, so they'll get to learn that area as well. And again, I'm looking forward to a new 2021. There's some changes going on with the police department and the level of service that we're providing. But we're definitely working with the community to make sure that our issues, our crime, and our quality of life issues are being addressed. We just recently had a new assistant chief promotion. It was from within. Lieutenant Captain Tyrona is now our assistant chief. He'll be over the patrol operations. And with every new year, there's always transitions and officers being sent to investigations. Officers coming from investigations back to patrol that have previously worked the beat, so they have more experience to lend to patrol. So if there's any questions, Mr. Rogers sent me an email invite to this, so I'll reply to him. And so you guys all have my email address and work phone number. So I work swing shift Monday through Thursday from 3 p.m. to 1 a.m. now.
Who did you say is our beat officer?
We have beat 5 officers throughout the week. We now have 6 patrol teams. We have 3 patrol teams on the Monday through Thursday side and 3 patrol teams on the weekend side, the Friday through Sundays. And then our police IT are in the process with updating all the phone tree rosters, our PD website that will have all the officers' pictures and their email address and their phone numbers as well.
So you don't know at this point who's assigned to North Richmond as the beat officer?
No, I do. I have the schedule in front of me if you want me to name them.
I just need the one for North Richmond.
What any specific shift? Because we have 6 officers assigned to beat 5 North Richmond area.
From 8:30 to 5 primarily, and then I can talk to you offline about the others.
Okay. So 8 during the day shift, Monday through Thursday, it's Officer Pan, Pann.
Okay.
And then our beat 5 sergeant for the district is Sergeant Melgoza, Melgoza.
Okay, good.
Were there any reports for the area of any activity or anything?
No, nothing to report this month, but we'll get back on it. A lot of our support staff are working from home, so I don't have a current crime stat report. The crime analysis gal just called me today saying things are kind of behind because of the transition and COVID and all that. But if there's anything specific or anything that comes out between now and reporting time, I'll be available to emails and answer any questions for you folks as well.
Okay, so if you get anything, you know, in the next couple of weeks on a report, just get it over to Robert so he can get it to everybody.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
Don. Yeah, this is Dr. Clark. Yeah, I have one question for the officer. I heard, believe it was yesterday on the news where there some people had robbed I think a 7-Eleven store somewhere in Contra Costa County and shot the guy in the store and killed him. And they said that the people who were involved were from Richmond. And they didn't say whether they were from North Richmond or just somewhere in Richmond. So do the officer know, I've heard about that, or can you find out if those suspects were from North Richmond?
I believe I saw that on the news as well. I believe that occurred in Bay Point,
Okay.
but I didn't know anything about any suspect information.
Okay. Yeah, well, if you could find out if they from North Richmond, because many times over the years, I've noticed that a lot of these incidents where crime happened in other areas, and they say the suspects were from Richmond. In many cases, they end up being from North Richmond.
Okay. I'm sure homicide detectives would have more information on that if we do have any.
Okay, Cynthia, go ahead.
Okay.
Okay, just a quick question. Can you just give us a slight report on the homeless situation?
Well,
Good
we're
question.
challenged at that. Michelle Milam has been doing a good job with that. Obviously, with the COVID restrictions, that's actually forced some people to be on the street. They're taking the homeless situation on their own. There's a fairly large motorhome encampment off Castro Street off 7th Street. And we haven't been taking enforcement action because of several situations. Number one, COVID's the main reason, and we don't have resources for them right now. So the current residents inside the shelters are kind of the residents, if you will, for now. But that has caused a little bit of problems with some of our crime and disturbances in and around the homeless shelters and the homeless encampments, if you will.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Okay, are there any other questions? Thank you for your report. And
Thank you, sir.
I will move on to the Highway Patrol. Is anybody from the Highway Patrol present? And no one from the sheriff is present. So we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the other agencies and program reports. We'll start with Healthy Richmond. Is anybody here from Healthy Richmond? If not, we'll move on to Robert Rogers for John Joy's office.
Thank you so much, Chair Gilmore, and thank you, Mac, and all of the public who's attending this meeting. Really appreciate you being here, and Happy New Year. I'm Robert Rogers with County Supervisor Joya's office. A couple of quick items. First, thanks so much. So many of you here were a big part of this. Yet another successful fundraising drive for the school, Verde Elementary in North Richmond. for our children here at Verde. So many of you were donors and were able to buy each of the kids 2 books as well as a tote bag of school supplies at Verde School, really demonstrating to the children in North Richmond that we all as a community care. I will a special shout out to the largest donors. The first one would be Chevron. Every year they are. Lily's here. Thank you so much, Lily, and also Janie with CHDC for helping facilitate that. Chevron is a great sponsor for the children at Verde. Also, thanks so much to our second largest donor and the largest donor last year, and that was Joe Pulido Jr. I don't think he's here, but in this meeting tonight, but rest assured his commitment to the children in the community is never in doubt. He always is willing to be generous with his time and his money. So thanks to Chevron, thanks to Joe Pulido, and thanks to so many more who really embraced the kids in North Richmond at Verdict School with love again this year. On another note, the COVID virus continues to rampage through our state, our country, and our county. It is getting darkest before dawn, but it looks like dawn is coming sooner rather than later. Vaccine rollout has begun. Many of our frontline healthcare providers are getting the vaccine. We're getting vaccines to inmates in our county jail populations, which is a hot spot for transmission, and also getting it out to our most vulnerable. The day will come relatively soon when we can all have vaccines and be safe to return to normal life. One certainly hopes. There are the same with the COVID numbers that I provided before, and I'll put them in the chat as well. I urge everyone to call them, schedule your appointment, ask your healthcare provider if your turn is for the vaccine, and just stay on top of this. That requires, speaking with your healthcare provider or going to the free county clinics, one of which is in North Richmond, to continue to be tested and get vaccinated where appropriate. And most importantly, until we get in the clear, please continue to be safe, practice social distancing, wash your hands, wear a mask, and be part of the solution. Thank you so much. With that, I'll take any questions.
Yeah, Robert, this is Dr. Clark. You mentioned the Verde School. Have the higher grades started attending the school at Verde? Have that already happened, or is that something coming up?
Yes, my understanding is that Verde last year expanded to 7th grade, and this year will expand to 8th grade. And so it's becoming a bigger, more full service school. And in my view, and in the view of the administrators there, that's a positive for this community and for the children it serves.
So Robert, do we know if the Center for Health is going to be giving vaccinations for the virus?
I don't know for certain. My assumption would be yes, but not yet. And of course, they're giving free tests. But as soon as I know more, I'll be sure to alert.
Thank you. Any other questions for Robert? Thank you, Robert. Just let us state for the record that we have all our MAC members present. Thank you all for showing up for this new year. And we look to have a great new year going forward. Robert, we'll talk more about having our retreat, our virtual retreat, so we can go over things for the future with the MAC. Community Housing Development Corporation, I'll give you an update. I mean, the biggest thing going right now is we have a LIFT program, which is through Wells Fargo, that gives $25,000 as a down payment assistance for a home throughout 7 of the Bay Area counties. Contra Costa is one of them. The thing to do is to basically get the education program, the certificate that gets you into a reservation for $25,000. So we think that February 1 is when it's going to start, when the portal will open. So if you know anybody that's looking for a home, interested in getting a home, just go to CHDC's website, and it would have all the information there. Basically, you know, we probably will, the way houses cost in the area, we'll try to look to layer the subsidies, the down payment assistance to match up with what the prices are. So the sooner the better. And I think after you actually get a reservation, you'll have 90 days to get under contract. And that's all I have for my report. And I will move.
Yeah, I have a John, this is Dr. Clark. I have a comment. Yeah, what is the progress on that issue you reported before about CHDC is going to starting the resource center to track the jobs and commitments that companies say commit to the MAC to hire people and contribute to the community and all that.
Yeah, more on that next month, but we are in the process of improving the space. So we'll be improving the area at Heritage Point and developing programs. I've been working with Robert to get all the groups who have promised jobs in the area, and we'll be circling back with them to do something formally of having some accountability in regard to making some connection with the skill level that's needed and things that we need to do to get folks ready, but also other exposures to opportunity in the industry. Hidden Geniuses is a group that's going to be coming there, and we're going to have like a satellite office there for different opportunities for folks in the community. So more on that as we move forward.
Okay.
Don, I'd like to add something else to your report.
Sure, go ahead.
See, I'd like to thank everybody. Happy New Year. The Senior Center at 515 Silver distributed gave 450 families holiday food baskets for the holidays. I want to do a shout out to Richmond Wholesale Meats, Shannon Alton, Arlington Community Church, HKIT Architects, and most of all, Chevron, who supported us with finances and beautiful blue bags to put the groceries in. It was very successful. It took us 2 days to do it, but we were happy because we were able to serve 450 families. And we're in the process now of getting all of the thank you letters and DVDs out so that our sponsors will be able to see exactly what went on those particular days. So I want to say thank you to everyone who supported us. It was fun, and it was happiness to see all those people come in, and we were able to serve them.
Good.
Thank you, Janie. You can go right into the mitigation report.
So with mitigation, Felisa is out. She had death in her family. So with that, the one thing that I am proud to say that at the corner of Fred Jackson Way and 7th Street, that's right there where the overpass come together, going out of North Richmond, that has been cleaned up. We got a few complaints on that, but we worked together as a team and we actually got that cleaned up. It was a lot of trash. We had a lot of cars blocking the way so that Richmond Sanitary couldn't get in there to pick up the garbage or the illegal dumping. But they were able, over a period of time, able to work around the cars and get that area all picked up. So we still have some blow and flow over there. Blow and flow mean that papers that have blown up against the railroad tracks. But in terms of the large items, we've already picked up and cleaned that up. So we're happy to report that out. Other than that, we have different complaints coming in, and we're trying to deal with those on a day-to-day basis with our partners. We try to refer to the proper department so we can get that all taken care of. So that's about it.
Okay.
Any questions?
Go with Cynthia.
Okay. Was Janie, you say you cleaned up at Fred Jackson Way and 7th Street. Who assisted with the cleanup?
Well, Richmond Sanitary did all of the cleanup, but we had to have partners like Richmond, the Sheriff Department had to come in and the City of Richmond Code Enforcement came in, and we found out that at the right outside of the overpass is the railroad company. And when the City of Richmond Code Enforcement came out, they're the ones who let us know that that was the railroad's property. She made contact with them. They said that they was going to get somebody out there to take care of it. But our Richmond Sanitary guys who are out there every day, I told them it is our area, and we didn't want the residents to continue suffering with all of that.
Put you in your boots.
So what we did is they just worked a little bit at a time, and they finally got it cleaned up. But there was a lot of partners involved. The sheriff, they contacted Richmond PD, and I contacted City Code Enforcement and residents. We had a resident over in that area who was very instrumental in and stayed on top of that and worked with me, and we got it done.
Thank you. Okay.
Hey, Janie.
I'm not through with my question. Okay, because I had my hand up earlier to ask Don a question about the lift. Don, the lift program, and now that's the program that was offering for the fixer-up houses.
No, that's a program that is offered for any house that you want, if someone wants to buy. It's just a regular, it's an open market type of program. It's not specific for fixers uppers. It could be any type of house that someone is wanted to get in a contract to purchase.
Okay, that's what I was unsure of. Okay,
Sure.
and, okay, go ahead, Annie.
Okay, thank you, Cynthia.
You made me
good evening,
made me lose my train of thought.
yeah, that's
Go
just
ahead.
a sign. Okay, that's a sign of us getting a little older, mature. Okay. So anyway, good evening, everyone. I just want to piggyback on interest that I had at the last MAC meeting, and I see that. Sorry to hear about Felisa not being in and what she's going through with her family as to now. But I am interested, and I have reached out to several individuals due to a lot of phone calls I had about a certain property that I do understand. Again, let me reiterate, I do understand that this property is a private property, which is housing authority. And I had mentioned to Robert, I didn't want to disturb him on his vacation, but I did get in touch with him, I think it was yesterday, about this property because it was of interest of last month. And it is due to accumulations of trash, not your regular trash, but I'm speaking of chairs, I'm speaking of lumber, I'm speaking of branches from cut trees, I'm speaking of all kind of sorts of things that has been a nuisance on this property. Now, I understand that our mitigation has individuals that are scheduled to do certain properties and clean up. I understand that, but this was brought to the attention of our last meeting, and that has been a month now. And it's like passing the buck, this, that, and the other. My thing is, I would like to have individuals, as Janie say, work together at this point, and not to let things of that nature continue to grow after it has been mentioned. We have things in place for these things to be cleaned up. And I just want to bring that up again. I did speak with Janie earlier, and I was told, I'm not going to harp on it, but I was told that it will be cleaned up in the next day or two. It is a large quantity of trash. It has grown from the front of the Housing Authority property to the back. So at this point, I was told that they will be getting on it. So I just would like to thank Janie and Robert for getting the word to the right individuals to take care of this, because it has been a month and it is constantly growing. So thank you.
Annie, where's the property located?
Now, may I ask Bishop if you can chime in and tell me the exact, it's a house down from Naomi House. I think I had given the wrong address. I was one house away from the exact number, but Bishop, if you can, knowing your house number, if you can location.
Yeah, yeah, I'm at 1724 Fred Jackson. It's right next door. It's a yellow.
26.
I'm a 1724.
Okay, yours is 1724?
Right, right.
So,
I'm 1724. It's right next door. You can't miss it. It's right next door. It's the yellow building, and not only that, it's been tagged. They're tagging it.
okay.
So, Bishop, this is Dr. Clark.
Pardon?
The address is 1730.
That's the one. That's the same one, Janie, you and Mario came in.
Right, that's the one that was mentioned. Thank you, Janie. And
1730
also,
Fred Jackson Way.
okay,
Yes.
and just one other thing, because I don't want to keep us long. The other thing is that it has a car. I think it's an old Lincoln. I think it's a Lincoln Continental.
No, it's a Oldsmobile. It's a van. It's actually a van that's been demangled, parts taken off, and it's been there for about 5 months.
Oh,
It's
about
been there
5
5 months.
Okay.
So does anyone live in the house?
No, these are all, no.
No one's lived in there in about 3 years.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it's, it's been unoccupied, but it's just that now, and now since it's been so vacant and they're starting to dump more and more, it looks like they're starting to tag the building also, and we don't need that. We've been away from a lot of tagging for a few years out here, and we don't need that tagging coming back. Okay, so again, thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Annie.
And Janie, for getting on it, and I'm done.
So
Okay.
thank you, Annie. There's one thing that go ahead, Princess. Princess, go ahead.
Real quick, Janie, are you guys still giving out the free dumping vouchers for 2021?
Yes.
Like where they can give, okay.
Yes. And if you can just contact me by phone, Princess, and I can just walk you through it.
So one thing I think we might want to think about this year, I mean, it seems like it's okay for issues to be coming up at the MAC meeting around the dumping issues. That's why we have reports coming. But I just want to be sure that these issues are being brought up at the mitigation committee. And I mean, I know it only meets a few times, well, every quarter, I believe it meets. And so if I mean, maybe you might want to meet, more times, or because it seems like stuff is coming between in the gaps. And so that is an issue, because we don't have all the entities here to address a lot of the issues. And I see your hand, Robert. I just think that it'll be more comprehensive if we had a good vetting of that at those committees as well. But go ahead, Robert.
I agree. Thank you, Chair Gilmore. I'd like to point out that we have a monthly North Richmond Green meeting that is all about just these issues of dumping, quality of life, blight, and so forth. All the appropriate players are there, and Janie and Felisa host that meeting. It's fantastic. Janie, could you please be sure to send the email invitations to everyone who's appropriate?
Okay, will do.
Thank you, Robert. That's a good venue for these issues to come up in more detail. So
Yeah, this Dr. Clark, are those meetings on Zoom or what?
Yes.
Okay.
okay, thank you. So we're going to move on to Reach. Bishop.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New
Mine
Year.
is going to be short and to the point. Just a little brief. What we did since October all the way to
Lost the sound.
Looks like you're on mute, Edwina.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we just did a light cleanup today from the 1600 block all the way to the 1800 block of Fred Jackson, just picking up some stuff that debris that sort of went up on the sidewalk or stuff like that. From October to December, we've been giving out masks to people to talk about social distancing. So we did about 5,000 masks to individuals, homeless population, and some of the seniors that are running out of masks. And, you know, after a while, you need to throw them away. We did some meals of up to 1,000 different seniors in the Contra Costa and the Alameda County to ensure that they had some food and different stuff. So I'm sitting in for Belinda. So like I said, we did get a truck. I had talked to Miss Annie. We sort of had talked about it. So we just decided to get out today. It was a good day after the rain and just did some pickup. We noticed still a lot of tires. So we pushed them off the side of down by the farm. It was a lot of tires. So that's all. It looked like people were dumping them and they're going to end up in the road. So we moved some of those out the way. And pretty much that's what we have been doing, is trying to keep everybody safe and healthy over these last few months, and making sure everyone is getting tested and keeping all of us safe and everything like that. And that's what we'll continue to do for the month of January, and then maybe change up on some stuff later. And Janie, if you could send me the time and the date of the meetings for the cleanups and different things, I'll make myself available for those mornings.
Yeah, Bishop, this is Dr. Clark.
Hi, Dr. Clark.
Hi. How many people do you have at the at the house?
The house right now?
Yeah.
We have roughly 4 single women, 3 mothers with children, and we have a set of.
Cutting off.
Did you hear me? So roughly, Can you hear me, Dr. Clark?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Yeah, we got roughly 4 women in the front, 3 in the back, and a set of twins, children.
Oh, okay.
They're 7 months old.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much. If there's no other, oh yeah, there's a question. Cynthia, go ahead.
Okay, just come back to question, just speaker before Bishop. Okay, with the trash problem, I just want to know, are there any concerns about abatement for rodents in the neighborhood, in the area where the trash is being piled up in the whole 9 yards? Are there any concerns about abatement? And that's a matter of getting the county out, to check things out.
Is that to me? Is that question?
Anybody?
Okay, well, in terms of mitigation, I just had a complaint just yesterday where a lady was concerned about a vacant lot across from her house. And she said that she had seen rodents and roaches over there, and she was concerned about them coming over to her house. Mm-hmm. So I contacted the county on that, and I just got an email back from Andrew, and he's waiting to talk to someone in his department. He already has a report on that. And so he's just waiting to do the abatement on that. So if someone bring it up to us, then we try to address it. by
Okay,
either calling environmental health or whoever we need to call in the county or city.
okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Any other questions? If not, we'll go to Urban Tilt. Anybody here from Urban Tilt to speak? Okay. Now Lily wants to make an announcement in regard to something she wanted to share. So Lily, go ahead.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Very, very quickly, just wanted to bring attention to everyone's awareness that Chevron has opened up the applications for our annual Black Employee Network Scholarship for graduating high school seniors of West Contra Costa County. So I'll put the link, I'm going to put a link to the article in the Richmond Standard. And then in that article, there's a link that will download the application if you click on it. And also just want to make sure everyone who works with nonprofits is aware that the ECIA grant cycle for 2021 is also open with the city. And so that's where organizations can apply for funding up to, I think, 50,000, maybe even a bit more. And those are due February 5th, and the scholarship is due January 18th. So I'll also put a link in for ECIA, but just wanted to make sure everyone was aware. That's it.
Lily, I'd like to say that I read those articles yesterday in the Richmond Standard, so they are being published.
Thank you. Thank you.
Lily,
before we go right
Clark,
to, oh, sorry,
Clark,
go
I
ahead.
have a question.
Go
Lily,
ahead.
so are you at Chevron having the Black History program this year?
I think we're going to do something virtual. I don't know what it will look like. We definitely do want to honor the students who are awarded. So most likely we will do something public and virtual. And I'll make an announcement once I know more.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Okay.
This moving kind of fast. Can't get no questions in.
You're open. The questions are open right now, if anyone has any. If not, we're going to move on. I did want to have, I saw Shanier Matawaki was here. I would like, if she can, make just a brief statement about what's going on at the center. And maybe, I don't know, Robert and Shanier, if you guys are open to it, I think it makes sense for you guys to be on the agency agendas to report out if you have someone available to report out every month. Or at least quarterly. Shanier, are you able to make any statement? Are you still with us here? No.
Yeah, Don.
Yeah.
That's all good, but I would add to that list the Service Integration Center, which I've asked Robert previously to get someone on the MAC agenda, which haven't happened yet.
Sure, that. And then, I mean, I don't know that folks will have to do monthly, but at least on a quarterly basis, we can make that work. Depending on that.
Yeah. Whatever they can do.
Right. Okay, so we're going to move on to the presentations. And we have Will Nilsson from the General Plan Update. Or is that you, Maureen? Is it? Let's see.
No, it's going to be Will.
Okay.
Will, we can't hear you. Yeah, we still can't hear you.
If I may, while we're waiting, Will, there may be an issue with telephone calls because Shanier was saying that she couldn't get through either. So perhaps maybe you should re-log in with computer audio.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry about that. It's happened a couple times on this computer. Okay. Well, I apologize for the technical difficulties, but Chair Gilmore, thank you. I'm happy to be here to make this presentation about Envision Contra Costa 2040. I'm going to share my screen here, and let's see. Can you all see the slideshow, the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay. And hopefully it's just the single screen, not the presenter view. Okay. Well, thank you. We've been, Envision Contra Costa 2040 is a project undertaken by the county's Department of Conservation and Development. And we've been working on this for a couple years now. Envision 2040 consists of, excuse me, 4 parts. Updating the county general plan, the county zoning code, the county climate action plan, and analyzing the impacts of all of them through an environmental impact report. So for those who are unfamiliar, what is a general plan? It is often referred to as the constitution for a jurisdiction's land use policy. It's the document that all of the land use policy for a city or county is based off of. Additionally, it establishes a vision for the community. It includes goals and policies to make that vision come to fruition. It provides direction on future development and also balances different competing sometimes topics like growth and conservation and quality of life. So why is the general plan important? The general plan affects many aspects of our daily lives, how property is developed, where jobs are located, what type they are, the appearance and feel of neighborhoods, how roads are designed. It deals with hazards and risks to people and property, and also resource conservation and many other issues. So why are we updating the general plan now? The document is 30 years old. It was, is about to have its 30th birthday. In fact, it was adopted in January of 1991. And so being that it's 30 years old, it doesn't really address a lot of the topics that that communities face in 2021. I'm sorry that I keep coughing. But also a lot of legislation, a lot of laws have been passed, especially in the last 15 years or so, such as the Global Warming Solutions Act, SB 1000 about environmental justice. We have legislation related to climate change and adaptation, and none of this is talked about in the general plan. There's also been a lot of new legislation related to housing. And there are many other plans that are out there that the general plan is inconsistent with or could be more consistent with. These are our local hazard mitigation plan. The Delta Protection Commission has its land use plan. We have the Adapting to Rising Tides initiative from the Bay Conservation and Development Commission. And none of this is addressed in the general plan. So it really is time to update the document. The general plan has some required components. The chapters of the general plan are referred to as elements in state law. And so the required elements are on the left. You can see there are 7 of them: land use, transportation, safety, noise, open space, conservation, and housing. Jurisdictions are allowed to have optional elements. And in Contra Costa County, we have growth management and public facilities and services as optional elements. But you can have whatever optional elements you really want. Some communities have design review, others have air quality, economic development, all sorts of things. But when the Board of Supervisors directed us to prepare the an updated general plan back in 2017, it was decided that we were going to stick with mainly with the elements that we already have. However, there are several themes that the board also directed us to weave throughout the general plan. And these 4 themes are shown here: economic development, environmental justice, sustainability, and community health. Again, the general plan is all but silent on all of these issues. So for anyone who has dealt with a general plan, perhaps the most familiar part of the plan is the land use map. And so here is a picture of the county land use map. All the parts that you see in color are the county's jurisdiction. That's the unincorporated area. And the areas in gray are the incorporated cities. The county has no planning jurisdiction within the cities. It's just the areas in color on the map. And I'm going to later in the presentation bring up the North Richmond land use map so we can see it in much better detail. But all the different colors on the map mean different things. So, you know, sort of there's like an emerald green that there's a lot of in the center of the map. That's parks and recreation. That can be your neighborhood park all the way up to Mount Diablo State Park. There's a sort of olive color that's agricultural lands. Much harder to see because most of the land in the county is not urban. But when we get into these into the towns and communities, it's much harder to see here, but you see these colors, the various oranges and browns and reds, purples. Those are the different types of residential designations, commercial designations, industrial designations, and so forth. But the land use map, mainly these designations tell us how many housing units you can put on a particular piece of land or how much non-residential development, like how many square feet of a business, for example. So the next document is the zoning code, and the zoning code implements the general plan. So you have a zoning map that is very similar to the general plan map, and it shows various zoning districts. And the zoning contains the regulations that dictate or control physical development. So things like what uses are permitted or not permitted on a particular property, what the permitting requirements are, development standards for a site like setbacks, parking requirements, what kind of signage you can have, those sorts of things are controlled by the zoning. And so the zoning and the general plan is sort of the higher level document, sort of the 30,000 foot view, and the zoning is the much more detailed document. So as you can see on the slide here, you know, where the general plan might say residential, you know, may designate an area over here as residential, the zoning will go into the greater detail and say, well, this is going to be single family residential or multifamily residential, at least in the new general plan. We also have the County Climate Action Plan. This was adopted in 2015, and it is the main intent of the Climate Action Plan is to help us reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. And while this is a very new document, certainly compared to the zoning, I forgot to mention the zoning was adopted in 1947 and has not undergone a comprehensive update. So we're dealing with a general plan that's 30 years old and a zoning ordinance that goes back to the 1940s. The Climate Action Plan was adopted in 2015. But even though it's new, we feel that it won't mesh well with the updated documents. So we're updating that as well. But there are a few reasons here also on why. And there are new greenhouse gas reduction strategies, changes in technology, new legislation that's been passed. So we thought it was time to just update all of these documents together. And as I mentioned, they'll all be covered by an environmental impact report that will analyze the anticipated environmental impacts of these policy changes and also include mitigation measures to mitigate the significant impacts of these changes. We won't be getting into the EIR for quite some time. It'll be towards the end of 2021. But once the EIR is written, there will be a public review period where folks will get to review the document and submit comments. So the Envision 2040 process really kicked off after we hired our consultant that's helping us out. There were a firm named Placeworks that is located in Berkeley. We really kicked that off in February of 2019 with a board meeting where we introduced the website envisioncontracosta2040.org. And then we jumped into community meetings, and we've had the first community meeting was in Crockett in March of 2019, and we've had about 50 meetings now of various types. As you can see here, there are community meetings where we went into the community, sat down with people and said, what do you like about your community? What would you like to see changed or enhanced? We brought out the land use map that I showed earlier and gave people markers and said, you know, draw all over this, tell us where would you like to see something that needs to be fixed, something, you know, whatever changes in your community. So we've had many of those meetings. We've had 3 for North Richmond. And we also have our focused meetings, which focus on those 4 themes I talked about earlier: environmental justice, economic development, sustainability, and community health. And then we have our various county commissions and the Board of Supervisors, where we've had meetings from time to time. The Sustainability Commission has focused very much on environmental justice and is also focusing on the Climate Action Plan. The County Planning Commission, we have meetings from time to time with that commission to go over various parts of the general plan update. And the same is true with the Board of Supervisors. And ultimately, when all is said and done, it will be the County Planning Commission that reviews the updated general plan and zoning code and climate action plan, and then makes recommendations to the Board of Supervisors on those documents' adoption. Online participation, if you are unable to get to one of our meetings, we have online participation at envisioncontracasa2040.org/online engagement. There are many tools here to that allow you to give us your thoughts. There's a great tool, a map of the county, where you can go in and mark a spot and say, here's what's going on here. We should address such and such issue. That gets sent to us. There's an opportunity to upload videos. Tell us, whatever it is you'd like to know about your community, photographs, all sorts of tools. We've had open houses that we've also now translated into an online format, so you can go in and talk about topics, look at information about topics like community health, environmental justice, transportation, traffic, all sorts of things, and provide feedback. And then, of course, there's our mailing list. I would ask that everyone sign up for our mailing list. Just enter your email address and hit sign up. I believe you get a confirmation email, but then you'll be getting emails from us periodically on the different aspects of the project, so you can follow very closely. That is as far as the presentation, the overall presentation about Envision 2040. And I'd be happy to take any questions, but I do have with me the copies of the existing and proposed land use map for North Richmond that I'd be happy to share. So I'd really turn it over to the chair and ask however you'd like to proceed is fine with me. If we'd like questions now or to take a look at the maps.
Sure. Let's go ahead with questions. I think I saw Prince's hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Don. I have a couple of questions. One is like, who's guiding the process? Is the community guiding the process of the profiles? And who actually has the final say in those? Like, and what gets, is it, are you guys updating it? Is it actually going to be changed? Yeah, just a couple of questions that are on my head right now.
Sure, thank you. So one of the parts of the new general plan that is not in the existing general plan is it'll be called community profiles. And these are specific to each community. And I will share North Richmond's here in a second as well. And so the current general plan, it reads like a list of policies that doesn't have much vision. And this is true for all communities across the county. And so we wanted to fix that in the new general plan. And so the various communities, about 22 unincorporated communities, will receive a profile. And that profile has a history of the community, demographic information, maps, information about hazards that the community faces, and then a section on land use and the policies that will drive development in that community going forward, and also actions that the county can take to affect change in that community. Most of the information in the North Richmond profile, as far as the policies and the actions, have been from the community meetings that we've had. So it's been based on community feedback, as well as the Richmond Quality of Life Plan. We've met with Healthy Richmond. We've met with folks from Richmond Land. We had a meeting a couple weeks ago, right before the holiday, with the Richmond Our Power Coalition. And all the feedback we're getting goes into this community profile. And so the draft profile is out there, and we're always accepting comments. The profiles will be, I think, in flux pretty much up until the day the general plan is adopted. But it's mainly a community-driven effort, the content of the community profile.
Thank you, Will, so much. And then real quick, I don't know if I heard you, but thank you so much for doing this again. But who has the final say?
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry
Who
about
has
that.
the final say about like what gets, you know, put in the profile or what gets updated and stuff like that?
Well, ultimately, the Board of Supervisors will adopt the general plan, and the profile is part of the general plan. So in the end, it'll be the Board of Supervisors. Now, along the way, we continue to engage with the community. So as I mentioned, we're always working on refining the profile for each community. But it will go to the Planning Commission and then the Board of Supervisors. We're looking at that, being in about 2 years from now. So that's ultimately who. Now, of course, as staff, we look at the suggestions and the comments that we receive, and we have to determine, okay, is that something that the county can do? Because we don't want to have this be a list of empty promises either. We want it to be realistic. And so while we get a lot of great suggestions, we have to look at two things. One, is it something that belongs in a general plan? Because at its heart, the general plan is a land use planning document. So there are some suggestions we received that are great suggestions, but they just don't belong in the general plan itself. That doesn't mean that the county can't do it, but just that it's not, that the general plan isn't the appropriate place. So, we kind of act a bit as the gatekeeper of what goes into it as staff. But really, we want to have vision. We want to remember that it's a 20-year plan. And a lot of times people, one of the things that we've challenged, we've run into with our community meetings is people often want to talk about here and now. And that's, we want to hear about that as well. But we also, want to think larger, right? And that while something might not be possible in 2021, it might be possible in 2025 or 2027 or somewhere down the line. So, we look at it, we're trying to look at it in that way too with these suggestions. Okay, also maybe it's something the county can't do now, but is it something that we can kind of put in our back pocket for the future when maybe funds become available or other resources?
I'm just wondering. Oh, go ahead, Henry. I think you.
Thank you, Will. So I heard you say that the County Board of Supervisors will ultimately adopt the plan, but in terms of sure that all those different items and themes that obviously to implement that plan, it's going to cost some money, period. And so in terms of the implementation of those particular elements, is there a projected time or when those particular elements may be implemented or the entire plan? What is there any particular a time frame?
Yeah, so, and I hope everyone, I've started sharing the North Richmond profile. I hope everyone can see the profile, isn't seeing my home screen.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll go to the beginning just so people can see what we're really talking about. This is, the profile is currently 8 pages long, and as you can see, it has context. Again, I was just saying maps and photographs. Some of these photographs are placeholders. We want to put in photographs of the community where possible. But it has a lot of tremendous information about the community. But the portion that we're talking about, that the question refers to, is the actions here at the end. And so the actions are the things that the county can hopefully do. And as I said, we don't want to have this full of empty promises, but we will have ultimately, as part of the general plan, an implementation program that spells out what the action is, who is responsible, what the timeline is, and I think to the extent feasible, funding sources. But for some of these, it really ranges. Some of them are adopt an ordinance, for example, which could take years. Other, like amend the zoning code number 5 to streamline permitting. That can take, sometimes amending the zoning code takes a short amount of time, sometimes it takes a while. but you know, we are working on a zoning code update now as part of this. So, you know, hopefully that's in the shorter term rather than long. But say like number 3 here, seek funding seek funding for and partner with landlords or property owners to house homeless families. So that would be an ongoing action, right? That's not going to have an end date. It would be really something we'd want to do as long as the general plan is throughout the life of the general plan. You know, but some of these are big ticket items, you know, infrastructure projects too, that would cost quite a bit of money. So sometimes we can't really assign a timetable to that because it might be dependent on getting a loan, or I'm not a loan. I mean, I meant to say a grant, for example. So I don't know if I've answered your question. I hope I have.
Yeah, well, no, that's good. I guess the other part of the question is that in the shifting political climate where we're dealing with board of supervisors, that's elected bodies, if those particular supervisors positions change over a period of time, and are the new people board committed to the the plan that have been developed, or they go from scratch?
So the plan will be adopted by the board that is in place at the time, at the end of 2022, and yeah, then it is county policy, and so it should be followed by any board that comes along, regardless of the different makeup. Now, of course, I mean, you're right. As politics goes, some things may change with an adopted document, and how much emphasis a board now versus in 10 years is willing to put on one item or another. But yeah, big picture, it will be the adopted general plan for the county, and the county is required to follow it. One other aspect of this, though, that is important to North Richmond is that it is called a disadvantaged community, and that's a term that some people don't care for, and we're willing to discuss in the general plan whether we use that term or not. But in state law, when it comes to environmental justice, North Richmond is a disadvantaged community, and one of the main tenets of Senate Bill 1000 is that investment is prioritized in disadvantaged communities. So one of the things that we have been talking about is how is that going to work once this is adopted? How will the county, make sure that investments in North Richmond and Rodeo and Bay Point and the other communities that have really been so negatively impacted over the decades by pollution and redlining and all sorts of things that have happened throughout history, how is it that that's really going to be implemented? The priority funding, priority implementation of projects. So it's something that we haven't worked out yet, but it's definitely going to be worked out before this is all said and done.
Okay, any other questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Sure.
I have a question. Okay.
My name is Latifa. I wanted to ask you, in developing the general plan, were you able to take anything from the North Richmond Quality of Life Plan that was recently done? I think it was just like maybe last year.
Mm-hmm.
We've actually consulted it quite a bit, and I hope everyone can see this. I'm going to zoom in closely here on the policies, and if you can see policy 2, there's a notation at the end of it, QOL 1.3. That's directly from the Quality of Life Plan. Yeah. Maybe the language is adjusted a little to fit the context of a general plan, but number 5 as well, number 8 as well. We've actually consulted the Quality of Life Plan quite a bit and tried to incorporate as much of it into the general plan as possible.
All right.
Okay. Don?
Yeah, go ahead, Annie.
Okay, thank you. Latifa, you kind of hit on where I was going for my question also. Well, thank you. I have a couple of questions, and the first is that I know that this general plan is up for a reconstruction as far as adding things that are most current now that communities are looking at, and has to make changes at this time. But my question is, with the areas that you had mentioned that was color coded and which the county is looking at and is responsible of actually implementing these general plans throughout the county, that one of the things is looking at the reconstruction of what North Richmond is looking like now. As you know that we have open space now due to the projects that Los Deltas has been demolished. And we are planning, have you all taken any of that in consideration of what we're gonna be looking at as far as homes, what type of homes going to be in place, what type of businesses that's going to probably be in place. We have various lands that's as color, the old color spot. I see that there's some development going there. So what have you, what part is going to be part of this general plan that you are looking at, and what has been already completed over the last 30 years? I know that's a lot to think about, but I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. And it's actually a great segue into talking about the land use map. So
Okay.
I've begun sharing the land use map. And this is the existing land use map for North Richmond. And so here we can see, there's a pretty easy division that we see right at Wildcat Creek. That south of the creek is where we have residences, a little light industry over on the east side. And then north of the creek, we have Verde, and then all of these properties that have an industrial designation, HI, the purple, heavy industrial, and then LI, the lavender, light industrial. And so this is, as I said, this is the current map. And what we are going to do, and this is based on, largely on the comments we received from the community. I'm going to stop sharing this one, and I'm going to bring up the proposed map, which looks a little different. The same, but different. And so here we have a couple things. All of the heavy industrial land has gone away on the new plan, and we've replaced it with light industrial. And light industrial would be more of your uses like, warehouses, distribution centers. You're sort of, you'll see these developments where you might have, concrete buildings with a bunch of individual tenant spaces that could be, maybe a retail space in the front and then sort of a warehouse in the back. There's all sorts of things that can fall in the light industry, small breweries, various land uses. But so we want to get rid of the heavy industry land use designation. When we zoom in to the residential area, and this is really what at this point in the process we would love to have feedback on. We've added a couple things. One, the gray area that says MU is mixed use. Those are areas that could allow residential or commercial development. And so we've added that along Fred Jackson, Market, and Chesley. And part of the reason for that is the existing uses that are there. There is a mix on Market and Chesley already of businesses and residences. And going up Fred Jackson, we talked to people about that in our community meetings. There seemed to be support for that. One of the things that we're looking at is should the mixed use area, and I don't know if you can see that I'm circling it, that juts out here west of Fred Jackson should go that far. So basically, should we allow businesses and housing in that area or just housing? But the Los Deltas site, we have a to be determined tag on it because we're not really sure yet. We've spoken with the housing authority, and what it's sounding like is that a project there might have different types of residential uses, different densities. And so ultimately, we're pretty much open as the county to whatever density people would like to see there. We know that, I mean, of course, there's a need for housing throughout the Bay Area. There's a need for housing in North Richmond. There's a need for affordable housing in North Richmond. And so at this point, you know, instead of someone looking at the map and saying, oh, it's this color, we can only build that, we're leaving that one open at the moment, because we're sitting back and saying, okay, you know, up until the moment we have to make this decision, we're willing to hear whatever, and we'll assign it that. But when it comes to, when we do that environmental impact report, we do have to make an assumption of what's going to be there. And we're going to assume a very high density, because we can always walk it back if we overshoot, but if we undershoot, we can't go up once the environmental impact report is done, unless we amend the general plan, and that's a whole, you know, process. So we want to, you know, even if we're overshooting here, we want to aim high, a lot of units, and then if it ends up being fewer, you know, that'll be fine. But you know, we're, from everything we've heard, you know, there should be a decent number of units there. And then there's another to be determined area here immediately north of the school. We haven't been able to decide yet on what that should be, and we'd love community input on that one as well. I think right now, I think it's like a contractor's yard or something along those lines. You know, the properties next door being, we have applications to develop them, but, you know, being right across the street, or, you know, right across just north of the school, we really want to make a smart decision about what goes there. And so that one, you know, we don't want to rush a decision either. So, you know, we still have that as to be determined. But again, we'd love to hear what people's opinions are on what that should be designated. But you know, basically, this is it for North Richmond. It's getting rid of the heavy industry, adding mixed use, trying to get some vibrant areas, you know, walkable, where you can walk to your local, you know, market or dry cleaner, or, you know, whatever business, you know, what have you. And the current general plan doesn't allow that. And so we want to make that easier for people to do.
So Will, what's the timing on this?
On the entire project?
Yeah.
So the end of 2020, I mean, I'm sorry, end of 2022 for adoption of the general plan. Technically, it could go into the first month of 2023. And that's driven mainly by, you know, to get into the weeds a little bit, those 7 chapters or elements that that I discussed earlier, none of them are required to be updated on any timeline except for the housing element. We initially thought that we would be finished with all this and then we would do the housing element. Well, as it turns out, with everything that's happened, our timeline for completing the project, the other elements, has now sort of fallen in line with completing the housing element. And since we're required to have the housing element done by a certain time, we're going to have it all done by that time. So it should be the, and I think technically the housing element could be adopted in January of 2023, but I say December 2022 as the end for all this.
And
So
Will, I can chime in.
Go ahead.
I put the link in there for people to sign up for the mailing list. And if you sign up for the mailing list, you will get notifications of different meetings that might interest you along the process. So for instance, we will be taking a map to the County Planning Commission as a check-in. We're also going to do a presentation. You know, we'll be doing a number of presentations to different MACs over the course of the next month and a half or so. So there's lots of opportunities for people to check in, see what the progress is, and to continue to provide input.
Really quick, I have a question before we move on.
Sure.
The zoning code, is that form-based? Is that going to be changing? How is that changing?
So far, so North Richmond has its own zoning called Planned Unit District, but the county zoning code, currently we are not talking about it being a form-based code. It would be more of a traditional Euclidean type zoning, as it's called.
Okay, and then you said it was going to be adopted in 2023. So the existing plan, like if people wanted to come and develop like now or currently, you know, they would have to go abide by the existing plan?
Or amend the general plan. And that is a pretty involved process. And so, yeah, once all these are adopted, I mean, they can always be amended. But currently, yes, if someone were to apply today, they'd have to go by the rules of the existing general plan and zoning.
Okay, thank you so much, Will. Real quick, Don, is there going to be any public comment on this?
Well, my next question was, will we be coming back to the group periodically? We may want to have more time on this and just have a real focus on this particular item. And maybe Robert can clear the agenda a little more for a more in-depth conversation about the input. I do like the fact that we can participate through online, but I think it's really good that we can have something focused right here on North Richmond with the group like we're doing now. But folks, a lot of folks are just getting their first opportunity to look at this. So I'm not sure what your plans are in coming back.
And we're very flexible. We're happy to come back whenever you'd like us to. There's a lot to digest, especially in the profile. It's only 8 pages, but some of it's kind of dense, and so we're happy to come back, and I think it'd be wonderful to have a long discussion about it. We have been saying since the beginning of this, we're not trying to come into people's communities and tell them what they want, right? Or tell them what we want. We want them to tell us what they want. And in some communities in the county, they want essentially nothing. We went, they said, thanks for coming. We want A, B, and C, and that's it. And then other communities, we've come and we've had these really engaging discussions. We've come back multiple times. So, we're really willing to do what the community feels is necessary.
Well, that's good to hear. I know there's a lot of people have been doing a lot of work on, what's needed in the community and what they'd like to see, a number of different town hall meetings and workshops on a lot of different issues. So I think this is something that the community wants to really get engaged with. So hopefully we have this to go out to everybody that's on this meeting can look at that, or you just go to the website and pick it up, this presentation.
The PowerPoint is not on the website, but I can make sure it is on the website. The profile is already on the website.
Okay.
Just if you go to the front page, envisioncontracosta2040.org, and hit the documents button, scroll all the way down to the bottom, and you'll see the community profiles. North Richmond is there along with the other profiles we've produced so far. And we're going to put the maps online.
Great. Yeah, we'd like to have a copy of the presentation. So if you do it online or give it to Robert so he can disseminate it, whatever would be good. We're going to have to move on. Thank you.
Is it possible to make a public comment?
Sure, Mr. Martinez, yes.
Cool. How's it going? Yeah, thank you for that opportunity. My name is Eduardo Martinez. I'm a part of Richmond Land. I'm actually the cultural organizer fellow for Richmond Land. And so I just wanted to speak on this topic. I'm also a former Las Deltas resident, and my family lived there for many years. And so, this is a topic that really concerns me, and I'm sure it concerns a lot of the North Richmond community. And so I just wanted to speak on that. And I just would like to state several concerns, or, give a little information regarding North Richmond and the community profile. So after reviewing the North Richmond community profile, it is important to continue to address that North Richmond has demonstrated interest in new and innovative housing ideas that serve our existing community residents. This favors designations for multifamily high density pocket neighborhoods and co-housing use, to in-house housing options like tiny homes and co-housing that we would like to see reflected more in the community profile. So these options should include designations that reflect the current economic profile of the community, not just at market rate rentals, options that contribute to community wealth building and build community resilience to climate changes in the future. And as a person that grew up in North Richmond and attended, a four-year university, I went to UC Davis, I find it incredibly difficult just to pay rent in this area, and yet alone purchase a home in the area. So co-housing options will allow folks like me to have a home in North Richmond, which is something that I desire. And I'm sure a lot of folks in the area do too. The other option that must be included in the narrative is that increased density should not be limited to commercial development and mixed use on Fred Jackson and Chesley. Other principal streets like Garamita and Market Avenue should be included and reflected in the North Richmond profile as well. And residents in the community, specifically on Garamita block, have shown deep interest in bringing innovative opportunities for new mixed use projects and zoning. And this is a result of me going out and, canvassing, knocking on doors, asking folks what they'd like to see in the community. Another pattern to note in the Contra Costa North Richmond, another pattern to note is that Contra Costa and North Richmond have witnessed a dramatic increase in value and housing costs since the last general plan process. Without parallel rise in income or wealth for North Richmond residents, despite this, North Richmond is still a home to naturally occurring affordable housing and land compared to other parts of Contra Costa, right? It's definitely a lot more affordable. And so I definitely, deep in my heart, I know that North Richmond welcomes community land trust and as a way to preserve, this land and housing for us future generations. We would love for our community to invest in North Richmond and open the door for future generations to benefit from future development projects in the area. It is not fair that land values increase and people have to move out, which is, the reality of what is going on. And that is why we must use things such as a land trust. It's deeply important. And so, just thank you for letting me speak and say have a say in this topic. And thank you.
Also, I wanted to say something. Could I say something?
Sure. Correct.
So thank you for the opportunity to comment on the county's general plan update and presentation and updates on the North Richmond community narrative. I'm Caprice, and I'm a Building Power Fellow with Richmond Land as well. So, and we've been learning about the development and then design what we want to see. I've been working with Richmond Land and projects for the past year and a half and have developed principles for the community development through a Black woman's lens. And I'm currently working on the Tiny Home Eco Village development project. And I would like to bring to your attention some thoughts I have also regarding the North Richmond community profile. So after reviewing the profile, it's important to continue to address and include that North Richmond has demonstrated interest in new and innovative housing ideas and serve our existing community residents. This favors designations for multifamily and high density pocket neighborhoods and co-housing use to enhance housing options like tiny homes and co-housing that we would like to see reflected more often in the community profile. These options should include the designations that reflect the current economic profile of the community and options that contribute to community wealth building and community resilience to climate challenges of the future. I feel that bringing an alternative affordable living solution would be beneficial to the residents that are currently here in North Richmond. Now is an especially vulnerable time for all of us that live here in the Bay Area, and creating more land use options can help eliminate the stresses of building stable housing. My understanding is that the Contra Costa County is not meeting its regional housing need allocation, and this is one way to do that. Also, increased density should not be limited to commercial development and mixed use on Fred Jackson and Chesley. Other principal streets like Garamita and Market Avenue should be included and reflected in the North Richmond profile. When speaking to some of the residents on Garamita, they talked about the many empty lots on the street and a desire to combine affordable housing and thriving businesses on the Garamita corridor. And lastly, the Contra Costa and North Richmond have witnessed a dramatic increase in land value and the housing costs since the last general plan process, without a parallel rise in income or wealth for North Richmond residents. Despite this, North Richmond has still been home to naturally occurring affordable housing and land compared to other parts of Contra Costa. North Richmond welcomes community land trusts as a way to preserve this land and housing for us and future generations. And I support the community land trust model because it allows residents to have a stake in the land they are living on. And not everyone gets the opportunity to purchase a single family home here in California. And I was lucky to be able to do so here. So this gives an opportunity for a variety of people to live and call this place a home. A land trust looks to care for people and not profits at the end of the day. Land trusts preserve land for us and is required in our community profile. And so I just wanted to conclude by saying that this is our community and our voice, and it must be continued to be reflected in North Richmond community profile. So we're not just observers, and we live here and we have equal voices and in the visionary documents that are being created in the next draft. And I would like to see some of the points made added. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna really have to cut this off here just because we've got, that's why I was saying we need to have a special meeting just for this.
Yeah.
A lot of positions that folks, if they would want to speak about them, we'll have more. There's a lot of different options to do in this community of what's needed. So I think it's going to be a variety of different potential opportunities and not just one. But I think we'll have to look at all that when we have another in-depth meeting about, the plight of what we're trying to do here. So we will get back to you, Will, and try to set up another meeting. Meanwhile, we'll look at all the things you have for us to take a look at, and we'll schedule a meeting just for this general plan.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna move on to our next presenter.
Excuse me, am I able to just give a brief update about COVID? I'm sorry, I have another appointment I have to get to.
Oh yes, go right ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to briefly just give a quick update. We are continuing to do COVID testing. As you all know, we did testing in the tents during the summertime, and with the issues with the poor air quality and the heat, the decision was made to move the testing inside the health center. And for those of you who are familiar with the North Richmond Center for Health, there's a courtyard in the center, and that's where the COVID testing is taking place. So the testing is Monday through Friday. Monday is from 1 to 4:15, and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, it's from 8 a.m. to 11:15 p.m. It's a mix of appointments and walk-up appointments, but we're really encouraging people to make appointments. You can go to cchealth.org. If you have a flyer, there's a little barcode, you scan it, it pops up on your phone, and that way you can make an appointment. Because what's happening is people were flocking to sites, not making appointments, and it's hard to gauge capacity. So for the thing that we didn't anticipate was we don't generally have just one person coming for a test. We have family units or people who live together. And so we're seeing 3, 4, 5 people come up at one time. We only have capacity to do 15 tests per day. So we encourage people to make appointments. We try to work with people who walk up, but we're not guaranteed to get you in. Sometimes we have to schedule them for the next day. So I just wanted to share that information. There was a question about
update
the vaccine, I believe, right?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, so the vaccines, the rollout started, I think 2 weeks ago at the hospital in Martinez. First, they focused on the hospital employees. Now they're starting to do the ambulatory care employees. Employees are having to go up to Martinez to receive the vaccine. I don't have any information that we will be having the vaccine. I just wanted to clarify that. Someone said that I think Robert said he assumes so. It depends on a lot of different factors, one of which is which vaccine and how it has to be maintained. As you all have heard in the news, one of them has to be maintained at sub-zero degrees, and we don't have the capacity for that, and nor do we have backup generators at the small facilities. So something that important and that expensive, they would not put in a health center that does not have backup generators, just in case something failed. So I don't think that'll happen, but don't quote me on that. I'll keep you updated as I get more information. But certainly we do have the larger clinics do have backup generators.
Thank you so much. I'm glad you were able to get back in. So now we're going to move to number 6, and that's the Centerpoint project description.
Great. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. This is William Liu from Centerpoint Properties. So I wanted to see if you guys are seeing the PowerPoint presentation that says Centerpoint Gardens at Brookside. Just to make sure. Okay, great.
Yes.
Eric, did you want to give the introduction here?
Yeah. Hello, everybody. Eric Zell here. It's been a long time. Dr. Clark, great to see you. Annie, great to see you. At least I'm working with your daughter, Annie, on another project. Very happy about that. It's great meeting her. Anyway, I really am excited about this project, and we brought this project to the MAC. Oh God, it's probably been almost 2 years ago, and it's taken that long to get to this point where the project is starting to go through the county process, and we really wanted to take the time to come and talk to you and show you what we're thinking about. I'm really pleased to be able to represent Centerpoint. They not only are really high quality developers, they also have been very responsive to the desire to bring benefits to the community, both in terms of jobs, in terms of investment in the community, in terms of being very respectful about making sure these projects stay out of the neighborhood, and also being very cutting edge in terms of around sustainability and the environment. With the leadership of Supervisor Joya, this is probably one of the first projects, perhaps in the country, and William can lead to this, where there's been a commitment to all of the truck traffic associated with this project over a period of time being zero emission vehicles. So recognizing that air emissions are a big concern in North Richmond, this project, both in terms of how it's going to handle its truck fleet and the fact that it's going to be both 100% solar and invest in the community solar as part of the community benefit, is some of the real great features of this. So I'm just proud to have an opportunity to see you all tonight and to introduce William, who you saw a couple years ago, who I've just stole all his thunder, but who will go into more of the specifics about the project. So
Great.
Thank you for having us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Eric, for the introduction. And like Eric basically said, he talked a lot about the goodies that we're going to be discussing. But in general, what we want to do today is not just present our project, but present the community benefits that are associated with it, and also discuss how we've been working with the county to actively mitigate any potential impacts. Our goal, obviously, is to be long-term asset owners. When we build a property, we hold it, we don't sell it. So we want to be good community neighbors. We want to make sure we're doing the right thing, that we're addressing any sort of impacts, making the situation better, doing infrastructure improvements, and like Eric said, providing community benefits. As I go through this presentation, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to chime up. I'm happy to address any questions. And at the very end of it, we will have an email address. I view community engagement as an ongoing process. If at any point in time, anybody that's on the line has questions or wants a separate conversation or has concerns they want to raise with us, please directly reach out to us. We're more than happy to sit down with anybody to talk about any issues they may have. So starting off, what does the project look like? This is what the project is going to look like. This is what we call the Richmond Gardens. This used to be the old Mia nursery. So really, we're looking at 3 buildings that are, it's about 550,000 square feet total. This is what we consider a prototypical light industrial facility. It's not heavy industrial. We've specifically designed this project to minimize impact to the neighborhood, the residential neighborhood to the south, as well as the school to the southeast. And on a site plan later, I'll show some of the specific features that we're implementing. One of the things that we've been very cognizant of is that there is a school to the catty corner of us. We've been talking to the principal. We've done human health safety assessments. We've been working with the county to make sure that our operations don't impact the school. That's part of the reason why you see all the docks facing the direction they're facing, is to make sure that none of the air quality issues associated with this project would impact any of the students for the younger people that are going to the school there. A little bit about myself and Centerpoint. My name is William Liu. I think I've met some of you before. I'm happy that the MAC is able to take some time to talk to us about this project. I work for Centerpoint Properties. We're an industrial-only company. We own about 60 million square feet of property across the U.S. With 300 plus buildings, 400 plus tenants, and about 2,000 acres of land. One of the things that we pride ourselves in is that, you know, we are funded in a lot of ways by CalPERS. So we want to make sure that we're investing in California itself. I'm happy to say that over the last 5 years, me and my partners have been able to grow our footprint in the West Coast and California specifically from about 3 million square feet to just under 10 million square feet. We have multiple projects up and down the coast, including in the Central Valley, in Oakland, and multiple in Los Angeles. One of the things I do want to highlight is that we're a long-term holder. We build buildings. We lease those buildings and we collect income checks. Very rarely do we ever sell any assets. We don't have any joint venture partners. We are intending to own these assets for the long term. We do all our management in-house. We'd like to form relationships with our tenants across multiple buildings and multiple states. Here's the project team. I think you have my entire team online today. Again, William Liu, myself, you have John Lass, who's our Vice President of Development Services, as well as Ryan Kelleher, who's our Manager of Development Transactions. Between the three of us and with Eric's help, we've been working closely with the county. And again, if anybody wants a copy of this presentation, there'll be an email address at the end. Please email us and we'll be happy to provide a copy of this. I'm not going to go through our bios, just wanted to let everybody know who they're dealing with and put a face. Project highlights. So here's the site plan. So one of the things, as we talked about, is that this is really a light industrial project. And what we've done is we specifically taken the docks and faced it towards Brookside or faced it towards Pittsburgh, just to try to avoid any potential impacts. One of the things that we've also done is in consultation with the county, we wanted to make sure that any traffic from our project does not enter into the residential neighborhood to the south. And not only was that the direction the county gave us, but they told us we need to make the existing situation better. Right now, trucks have been using Fred Jackson as a bypass. So part of our project, and we're going to go through some of those in detail later, is specific infrastructure improvements along our frontage that's going to limit the ability of trucks to do that, to physically restrain them from doing that. And then separately from that, we're going to be building out Brookside Drive and Fred Jackson Way along our property perimeter, installing sidewalks and bike lanes and everything else associated with it to provide the students at Verde Vista a safer path to get to school. Outside of that, we've shown that some elevations are going to be coming up. We're trying to build attractive buildings that really add to the community. We're investing long-term in these. And then we'll also talk about some of the sustainability elements, some of the zero emission elements, some of the solar elements that are important in an area that has air quality concerns. So this is what the property is right now. We've since demoed the homes that's along the Brookside driveway, along Brookside Drive. So here's the elevations. There's a rendering that we showed earlier, but just wanted to point out that, you know, we have some enhanced corners. So we're anticipating there's going to be a healthy office component associated with our project. We want to be able to provide glazing to allow offices to be expanded in the future. One of the things I would like to note is that the project we're presenting today is a speculative project, which means that we don't have a tenant in tow yet, or we don't have a tenant that has signed a binding agreement with us. So this project is relatively generic in nature. So I'll do my best to answer any questions related to that. But a lot of the specifics may be related to tenants, of which once we have someone in tow, we're going to be more than happy to bring them to the MAC and introduce them. This is, again, the building elevations. There's a cohesive kind of like architectural scheme associated with it. And finally, this slide is what I consider one of the more important slides. And a lot of things I do want to talk about are going to be highlighted here. Just like Eric talked about before, we were happy to partner with Supervisor Joy and his office to make sure that we adequately address any sort of air quality issues associated with this project. First thing we'll point out, there are going to be conditions of approval that we've agreed to that will be issued for the project that will require phased zero emission vehicle adoption for heavy duty trucks and vans. And that's going to get us to 100% adoption of both of these types of vehicles over the next couple of years. That's something that the county has been very stringent upon, and we've been actively marketing that to the tenants, and we're going to implement that as part of the project. Part of doing that means we need to do underground conduits. We're going to install chargers. We're going to oversize the electrical room. We're going to make sure that the facilities and all this infrastructure is installed from day one as part of the project. Finally, we're going to put solar panels across the roof areas. Part of the reason we're doing that is because we want it to be net neutral. Whatever the building uses in power, we want to be able to generate that in a sustainable manner. CenterPoint, across the entire West Coast, every building we build has sustainable elements associated with it. We do at least LEED certified, if not LEED silver for every single project. And that's also going to be our target here. One of the things that we will talk about also is that there's an immediate commitment that we will be using zero emission on-site equipment. Yard hustlers, yard equipment, forklifts, trucks, yard tractors, and pallet jacks. This is on top of the zero emission vehicles that are actually going to be servicing the site. Additional features, we are going to have obviously preferential parking for carpools, electrical charging vehicles for employees. There's a significant setback. We're also going to be installing a screening wall along the south property line that's shared with the Verde Elementary School. There's a health risk assessment that we specifically commissioned that's been reviewed that shows that there are no impacts. We're well below the threshold of any sort of potential impact line by orders of magnitude. There's not going to be any truck idling. It's going to be strictly prohibited. It's going to be in the conditions of approval. Finally, we're agreeing to contribute $500,000 of community benefit towards a solar project for the benefit of the North Richmond area. So that's something the county has asked for, which is as part of being good neighbors, as part of investing in the community. That's part of what we're offering. And then there's a couple other items that we're doing as part of the construction process. We're using low emitting paints, we're using VOCs, we're using low emitting adhesives. Some of these are just ways of construction to allow employees who work inside the building to have better air quality. And then we also have installation of bike racks to encourage alternate methods of travel. We also, as most of the people here know, that there are bus stops within walking distance also. Here's where I want to talk a little about the offsite mitigation infrastructure improvements we're doing and specifically relate to how they're going to help traffic, make sure that the traffic associated with our project is limited to our project and does not spread to anywhere else. One of the things I will note, and we have specific call outs later, is that truck access for our project is designed to come in from Pittsburgh Avenue or to design to come in from Brookside Avenue. So at Pittsburgh and Fred Jackson Way, we specifically inserted a carve out that's going to physically prevent trucks from turning right on Pittsburgh Avenue. So if you have a heavy duty class 7, class 8, 16-wheeler truck, you can no longer use that as a bypass. You will physically not be able to make a right turn. So that's something that we've decided to implement. And separately from that, if you look at the driveways along Brookside Avenue, all those driveways are intended to allow for right in and left out. So the intention is that any truck traffic, any vehicle traffic, any impacts associated with the project comes into our building, into our project, leaves our project and goes back onto Richmond Parkway without ever going through Fred Jackson Parkway. And I think the inclusion of this bump out and the infrastructure improvements that we're doing is really going to help limit the southbound truck traffic going down Fred Jackson, where potentially truckers are using that as a method to bypass Richmond Parkway during rush hours. So here's some of the specific implementation. You see that there's a bulb out in the median. You can see that there's some pork chops as well as islands that we're installing along Brookside Drive. So instead of just requiring our tenant to not do this, we've been working with the county to implement physical features. So it's always good to say, hey, you can't do this, but we're going down the road of saying not just you can't do this, but actually stopping them physically from doing that. So that's something we've been working in consultation with the public works staff, just to make sure that if they have any other ideas or solutions, that we're implementing them. The key for us is we don't want our traffic to bleed outside of our project. And here's really the traffic pattern associated with our project. And the reason we're showing this is because I just want everybody to know that the residential neighborhood to the south is something we realize that it's inappropriate for our vehicle traffic to go into. And that's why I talked about some of the features associated with the infrastructure and the roadway improvements. And I also think as a long-term, it will help with the issue of commercial vehicles using Fred Jackson Way, because they've been using Pittsburgh as a potential bypass point. Now that we're blocking that off, we think that's going to help the existing situation. So one other thing I want to talk about is I just presented a speculative project. That's the project we're currently getting entitled. We are in negotiations with a tenant for a build-to-suit. So the build-to-suit would be a facility that's specifically constructed for the tenant, and that's currently under review by the county. We do not have a signed binding agreement with the tenant, but we've been doing work, and the county has been reviewing some of the documents we've been generating. If we decide to finalize this build-to-suit and the county approves our project, this is what the alternative project would look like. It would be one single building. It would have about 320 auto stalls, about 700 van stalls, and 8 trailer parking stalls. This would be for a leading e-commerce related tenant. It would be a new requirement where there would be significant hires associated with it. We are preparing, per the county's request, updated analysis for this potential build-to-suit also. We're doing air quality, greenhouse gas, traffic, and I'm also happy to say that on almost all the metrics that these are equal to, if not lesser than the speculative project we're proposing. If we do also manage to sign this tenant, this would be a new location for the tenant. So all the hires will be new hires, or the majority of the hires will be new hires. And the zero emission vehicle adoption requirements will apply to this prospective tenant as it would apply to any potential tenant that comes into our building, be it a speculative project or be it a build-to-suit project. One other thing we want to talk about is the responsible contractor policy and local hiring. Part of us being good neighbors is, like we like to say, is we're required to comply with the responsible contractor policy issued by CalPERS. So no matter where we do business, we're required to pay fair market wages to our subcontractors and general contractors, and to make sure that the people who work for us, second tier or third tier, all have benefits. But outside of that, we've also planned on doing this project entirely union. We've executed a letter of intent with the Contra Costa Building Trades, committing to using union labor to construct the entire project. We've specifically selected a general contractor who's signatory with the union trades and who's also going to sign a project labor agreement. And then our general contractor will also solicit local subcontractors, making an effort to promote local hiring and local apprenticeships. Where we are in the development process, the County of Contra Costa is preparing a draft EIR, which we are hoping to be released for a 45-day public review sometime in February 2021. And we're targeting approval, hopefully, subject to the discretion of the Board of Supervisors in April 2021, with commencement hopefully shortly after, with a substantial completion date of April 2022. So that's roughly where we are in the timeline. We've been working very diligently with the county staff, making sure that every single potential impact is analyzed and mitigated in an appropriate manner. Area projects, part of the reason I'm just pointing out is that we've been actively working in Northern California. One of the other flagship projects we're doing is at the Port of Oakland. There's a 466,000 square foot facility that we've just finished. Unfortunately, I don't have a tenant for it yet, but hopefully that'll be resolved in the coming months. And in terms of questions, like I said before, and I truly mean this, is that I believe in community engagement. I believe that if people have questions about the project, that they should be able to ask me. So if anybody has any questions, any concerns, want more information, or want us to do a separate presentation to anybody else, please email us. We've set up a special email address. It's richmond@centerpoint.com, just to make sure nothing's lost. And then, or email Eric Zell, he's one of our representatives. We, again, will make the commitment here that we'll respond to any questions that we receive from community members. Happy to set up additional Zoom calls or make any presentations as anybody deems appropriate to HOAs or to anybody else. Really, that's the end of the presentation. I was trying to be respectful of the time, and maybe I went a little bit fast, but I wanted to hold here and make sure that if there's questions that we have a chance to answer them.
Thank you for your concise presentation. Open up for questions, folks.
Hey, I have a question.
Sure.
Hi, this is Latifa. I wanted to just touch base to find out if you had been in touch with the watershed project. I understand from the watershed, I thought they were doing like some type of garden, some type of improvement on Fred Jackson Way. And I just wanted to know if you had already been in communication with them on that.
Sure, we've been in communications with the county. I know the county has a first mile, last mile improvement project in Fred Jackson Way, and we've been coordinating with them. I'm unaware of how that ties into the watershed project, but that's something we're happy to look into.
All right, thank you.
Dr. Clark, I have a question. You mentioned that you have a prospective client that you trying to build one of the buildings to accommodate. Do you, but you don't know, or do you know what the use of that particular prospective client is going to have at that building?
Yes, it's a e-commerce related use. So it's going to be really last mile distribution of goods directly to consumers.
I mean, I'm not really quite clear on that. What does that mean? What type of products? What type of products is that?
I guess durable goods direct to consumers.
Sound like Amazon.
Yeah. Or similar. So go ahead. Go ahead, Henry.
Yeah, okay. And so in terms of the, is that the basis of all the clients that would you would track to be in the facility, that they would basically, so in the final end, so we would know what particular clients that you would be attracted to the facility and what type of products that what would be happening there until you actually contract with someone. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I think for the 3 building speculative scenario, we don't have a tenant identified, but I can say who the typical tenants typically are in this area. It's usually light industrial users. It's people who are using this as a warehouse use. People maybe doing last mile, maybe doing light assembly. Those are going to be the likely users. What this is not a truck terminal. This is not a heavy manufacturing. There's specific zoning limitations on what they're allowed to do here. And some of those related to hazardous uses and other things. But there's impacts that we analyzed associated with those. So that's on the speculative use. So I can't provide too much detail on that because I don't technically know, but I can point out the type of tenants. And then on the tenant specific use, which is what I'm showing on the screen now, what I can say is that we've analyzed the impacts based on the data the tenant has given us. And it's really mostly home delivery, last mile delivery type of service.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Annie, did you have a question?
Yeah, well, more or less mine was a comment about the presentation that was just presented to us. I appreciate, and I'm pretty sure the community appreciate that from the last time that you and Eric was here to do this presentation along with some other colleagues, that you stayed true to what you presented. I can truly follow what the presentation was almost a couple of years ago, and that the enhancement that you've added has been true to the community as far as making sure that monies comes back into the community as we're looking at, and for hiring for the community, and not just hiring, but for the jobs to be through union for good wages. I really truly appreciate that. So kudos to you and Eric, and I really, really appreciate. I follow this, and looking forward to even hearing more that you do have the community in mind.
Absolutely. And I'm seeing a couple of notes in the chat. The only thing I'll say is that the tenant we're talking to has a non-disclosure agreement that I'm forced to sign. So I'm not allowed to confirm or deny or to state their name until it becomes public knowledge through the approval process. So what we can promise is that once we have a deal finalized with the tenant, we will make sure to bring the tenant, or at least strongly recommend to the tenant that they come to the MAC, introduce themselves. Because quite frankly, one of the most important things to any sort of tenant here is the ability to attract employees, and being able to take advantage of something like the MAC, who has local resources to help them find people in the area who need jobs. That's going to be something that we view as an amenity.
Yeah. This is Dr. Clark again. Yeah, well, in terms of that, I'm glad you mentioned that, because basically that's sort of the bottom line question that I have, in terms of, since we are not fully aware of who the tenants would be and what they're actually doing. I think I had indicated at the last meeting that when you get any particular tenants for the project, that they would come back before the MAC so that we would know who they are and what they're doing there, in case if there is any particular concerns about a particular tenant and what they're doing there after they get in. We want to be able to address that.
Understood.
This is Latifa. I have a question. Can you share a little bit on the solar project that you mentioned?
Sure. We're doing we're installing solar on all the rooftops that we are building in our project. I don't have any details on the separate solar project. What we're going to be doing is providing the county with $500,000 of funding for the county to implement a North Richmond solar project.
I see. Thanks.
Okay, any other questions, folks? So William, I think we're going to be really working with you in regard to the job opportunity. We have a lot of folks that come through and talk about, but I mean, I like the way you've presented, but I would say to Robert and my fellow MAC members that it probably makes sense for us to have some form of a subcommittee. We need to do that anyway in regard to the jobs opportunities that are out here, but we look forward to working with you on some of those commitments that you get along with the construction, as well with gearing up for the potential job placements that we think we might be able to do here. So we look forward to working with you on that.
Absolutely. Wanted to thank the MAC for their time.
Okay, folks, thank you so much for the presentation. Is this an action or is this information, Robert?
Yes, Chair Gilmore, this is an action item, and we request that you vote on whether you approve or disapprove of the presentation, the project and concept.
All right, is there?
Just before we do that, one question. So when we had the presentation before, however long ago, Robert, what did the MAC take any action in terms of approving the concept then?
I do not believe so. I believe that was an informational presentation that they provided on their own volition.
Okay.
Okay, so we have it's open for a motion from the group right now.
I move that we accept the presentation and support the presentation as submitted as a board.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay,
This
it's
is Annie,
been
and I second it.
okay.
Did you hear
All
me?
right, so it's been moved and seconded, moved by Beverly Scott, seconded by Annie. All in favor, I know you by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? It passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there any announcements anyone needed to make that didn't make it before? Because I know we had some technical difficulty. I know Shanir was able to get in. I don't know if anybody else needed to get in. Yeah, go ahead, Cynthia.
We have, I see we have Healthy Richmond. We have Daniel from SOS and Tony from Housing. If they would like to say something, they're here and were.
I don't have anything to add. I've been listening intently.
Thank you, Tony.
Okay, that's one down.
We did have
We had Daniel from SOS and we had Carlos from Healthy Richmond.
I made the announcement, so if they want to speak, they can say they want to.
This is Daniel from SOS Richmond. Thank you for the opportunity. There's nothing special I need to add. We're continuing just very, I guess I'm saying something now. We're working on the North Castro cul-de-sac and cleaning it and trying to get in there with the homeless folks there with a little more diligence than we have recently. And so we look forward to continuing that work. That's about it for now.
Thank you.
Hi, Carlos from Healthy Richmond. Just the only major announcement is just that we're still doing the North Richmond Youth Surveys, and we're doing some listening sessions with Verde, and that we're gonna follow up with Envision 2040 on some of those profile and Climate Action Plan community sessions. So that's it for now.
All right. Was there anybody else?
Chair Gilmore, I have one I neglected to mention during my report. It's on the jobs front. This is a really good entry-level position for a North Richmond resident funded by the Mitigation Fund. It's an office aide position for the mobile tool library and starts at $16.64 per hour. If anybody wants to apply, the recruitment is on the City of Richmond website, or you could also just come directly to me or to Stephanie Nye. But basically, there's a really good office job that's funded by the Mitigation Fund. That's for the North Richmond Tool Mobile Library. And so if anyone here or any of your friends or family are in need of some good community work, this is a great opportunity.
Thank you, Robert. Okay, thank you all for coming and we are adjourned. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.